Welcome to 50 Plus in Montgomery County, a monthly program that is a voice for many and produced by the Commission on Aging, of which I am a community member. This show is insightful for people of all ages, and each episode takes a fresh look at important issues by spotlighting older adults in the community, representatives of services and programs, and activities of interest to older adults. My name is Katie Smith. On this month's show, we will learn from our local leadership about our accomplishments in Montgomery County and what we can expect in the future as we move forward. Here to kick off this discussion is County Executive Mark Eldridge. Hi, County Executive.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm hanging in here. It's a halfway nice day today.
That's right. Well, congratulations to you on your reelection and to the first 11 member county council who were sworn into new terms last month. Now, as county executive, when you look back at what was accomplished in your first 4 years in office, what were your major successes and achievements?
Um, when I first came into office, by the time I'd been there for, I guess, 3 months, we were working with a $90 million deficit in the budget, and we were able to recover from that. We had to make cuts that year, and it affected our second year's budget. But after that, we've been doing pretty well in terms of being able to slightly adjust to service needs, particularly in the beginning. This last budget is the healthiest budget we've had in a very long time. We anticipate this next budget is going to be pretty healthy too. So I think if I was going to say probably the most important thing is we had the best COVID response in the country. And I will thank the senior community, which 65 and older population basically early on achieved about 99% of vaccination. So I'll return to that later, but that was really critical. So, we're the most vaccinated place in the country. Overall, we had, death rates that were 2/3 of the national death rate. So it cost a lot fewer people their lives. I want to thank the residents and the seniors for taking this seriously. We didn't have to beg and plead for you all to get vaccinated. You understood why this is important. If you're out there now and you haven't been vaccinated with the new booster, please go out and get it because we're on an up ramp on COVID and the flu, and you don't want to get either of them. Both shots are available. And we want to make sure we can keep you out of the hospital. We during the first year, we established the first Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. We have appointed our first Chief Equity Officer. We passed a climate action plan to match the climate resolution that was passed 5 years ago. So we've got an aggressive plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We right-sized our budget going from $90 million deficit in the first year to surpluses we've been running now. And we've got historic investments in educational funding, housing, early childhood education, and transportation. During COVID, we pivoted service delivery out of simply going from HHS, Health and Human Services, to using community partners to get more things out to residents in the community. That was enormously helpful. So I thank all the nonprofits, all the senior centers, and everybody else for participating and helping us reach deeper into our community. We made sure our employees were fairly compensated. We were able to address wage issues in this time. We built and opened the county's first year-round homeless shelter with beds for 200 people and surge capacity for almost another 100 people. We just finished a report on reimagining public safety, which is a big deal, reforming our police practices so they're more in line with community expectations. And we maintained our AAA bond rating, and we did all this without having to increase the tax rate. So that's a lot we got done in the middle of a pandemic with constrained resources. So things only are up from here.
Well, that certainly speaks to your leadership. So thank you so much. Now, what do you consider to be your major goals and priorities for the next 4 years for county residents and specifically for older adults?
So I want to acknowledge by 2030, about a quarter of the county residents will be age 60 or over. So we are a growing cohort because I'm 73. So I fit there. So this is important for all of us. When the budget's being set up now, we're asking all the directors, what programs and services are you proposing for the county's current and future older population? So when we talk about an equity lens, equity isn't just racial equity, but it's also making sure we're serving people across their lifespans. There are a lot of challenges that older people face, keeping housing affordable, particularly for those on fixed incomes. If you're a renter, which many people are, it's challenging in the face of rising rents. We're going to be proposing rent stabilization to put caps on the rents, particularly if and this would be a major benefit to people on fixed incomes and retirements. We're looking at pedestrian safety and increasing disability access and ADA compliance. You'll continue to see more of these small poles going up around the county to help make crossing streets safer, to provide squared off corners. Cars can't simply zip around the corner, but they actually have to seriously slow down, proper right turn or a left turn, which will help increase safety. I'm a big fan of examining traffic light length so that lights are actually timed in a way that a senior can get across the street, and having them stranded on an island in the middle of the street is not a satisfactory solution. So we're going to continue to look at what we can do with signals and signage to make it safer. We're looking to expand, our role, and looking for more state aid to improve our resources and programming for the older population. And we're strengthening immigrant services and resources. And in those cases, the immigrant population, really struggles because they don't have time to acquire language. When you're dealing with seniors, they're coming here with, lots of challenges, health, income, and otherwise, at a point in their life when learning English is not going to be the fastest thing they can do, and they're going to be more, needy of services early on rather than later. We've been active in combating elder abuse and fraud, and I think our folks in consumer protection and John McCarthy over in the state's attorney office. We have an ongoing policies that help try to protect seniors, make our services available, and we're an age-friendly ARP community, AARP, and we submitted our action plan in 2020. So we're looking out for you. We understand the special challenges. I know that it's not practical just to say, well, why don't you all just shrink your housing and move into, a smaller condo? Because, let's face it, if you live in a typical home in Montgomery County, your mortgage or your house value is probably about $450,000, $500,000. That's typical. And that means if you have no debt because you've managed to pay it off, which some of you have and some of you haven't, and you wanted to downsize, that might be the amount of money you have to put toward downsizing. But if new apartments in Bethesda cost 8, 9, or $1 million for a new apartment, you're not going to downsize into those apartments. I think people have oversimplified what it means to downsize because the prices of new housing are so expensive. It's very hard with people on limited incomes, even if they had the benefit of selling their house, to not go into new housing without now having to take on additional debt, which seniors do not want to do, which leads to sometimes aging in the place is the best solution for a person. And so we're going to try to continue to expand our support for people being able to make repairs and make sure their homes are kept habitable as they age, so they're not forced to leave their homes. And we've also improved our programs and expanding programs for helping people find a roommate. If you're a senior and you've got a big house and you want to find a roommate, we have a program for you. So we're trying to be as helpful as possible on this. We understand the challenges, and any input people want to give us, please give us.
Well, you certainly have a holistic and innovative approach. Now, you've already mentioned COVID and the flu, but I do want to ask specifically, as you begin your second term, those are still very much immediate issues. Hospital beds are still being filled, with the tridemic flu, RSV, and COVID, and obviously much of which can disproportionately impact older adults. How are you going to advocate now to keep older adult residents safe and healthy? What's the progression moving forward?
So I'll start by just being very clear that if you're 55, 65 and older, you are the most vulnerable population for COVID. And if you add that to the complication of being the most vulnerable population for the respiratory virus, RSV, and that you're vulnerable to flu, you're exposed and vulnerable to a lot of things. Flu and RSV basically didn't exist in the county for the last 2 years because everybody was masked. Masks may have been a pain sometimes, but the reality is it kept everybody safe. And it not only protected against COVID, it protected you from flu and RSV. And you are the community that should be most, um, I would say, happiest about being protected from being the flu. So what we're asking now is if you're going indoors to congregate settings where there are lots of people, please wear a mask. It's for your own protection. We don't want you getting sick. We sure don't want you in emergency rooms. And the thing we're worried about is we do not want our emergency rooms overloaded because they won't be able to take patients in when they need to take them in, and they won't be able to have hospital beds if too many people come into the emergency room and wind up in a hospital. COVID is avoidable. And this is the sad thing about why finding ourselves still in this mess. If people were all vaccinated, we wouldn't be talking about this. We'd be talking about a few people getting breakthrough cases and maybe not feeling so good, but we wouldn't be worried about hospitalizations and filling up emergency rooms. But we are where we are. So we're asking you to please do that. Get your shots. That's the other thing. You can, the shots will keep you far more protected. They're not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say guarantee you won't get sick. But we do know that when people get sick and they've gotten the boosters, they don't get as sick and they do not have the mortality rate. I'd say, we'll be doing more outreach engagement with our HHS department, but also with all of our community partners. We've got a program that can provide a mental health a senior checkup call. So if you want us to check up on you, you can get on the call program. Somebody will check up with you. And we continue to have mental health programs, and we're looking actually to expand our mental health programs. So that's kind of my advice for all of you out there. That's the advice I give myself. I don't want to go to an emergency room, trust me.
That's right. None of us do. County Executive Elridge, you've already, started to host your hybrid forums to seek input on your fiscal year 2024 operating budget. What are you learning from residents? What are you hearing?
So the forums have been very positive. I think people are appreciative of what we did with COVID. A few outliers out there, but the people who are coming to the forums, they're very appreciative of the work we did, and they understand it was a necessary inconvenience that we asked people to endure. I think people are optimistic about our economic outlook. You haven't seen us raising taxes. We didn't get into, I served on the council 12 years. Almost every year we were doing savings plans and cutting services mid-year. We've managed to avoid that pretty much. So people have been able to count on our services. Actually, expanding library hours and expanding programming in senior centers. So we've been able not only to hold steady, but to move forward. And I think they should be excited about our new health institute that's coming to the county, which is going to certainly help us on issues like economic development and, how do we make sure the county's successful and able to grow its tax base going forward. But seniors are also concerned about maintaining services. So, we get asked, are you going to continue funding for the senior centers? Are you going to maintain the, hours in your libraries? Because a lot of seniors rely on libraries as a place to go and read. And I tell people it appears that the budget's going to let us do that. We're trying to work on getting rent stabilization on housing, because one of the issues that we hear from seniors is they don't know how to deal with the rising housing costs. We have a little bit of rent assistance money, but it's not really enough. And people with limited and fixed incomes are often already paying half or more of their income just to stay in rental housing. Um, that's a recipe for disaster. We know the consequences. You skip doctor's visits, you get a prescription, you can barely afford the prescription, you're cutting your pills in half to try to make your prescriptions last longer. You're not going out because you're too nervous about going out, or you don't have the money for transportation. Our buses are now down, by the way, down to $1 a ride from $2 a ride for everybody. So, you've got free for 65 plus, but if any of you are in the still paying stage, they're down to $1. So we're trying to make it easier for you to, enjoy the services we have, take advantage of them, and to make sure if you need help, we can get the help to you. That's what we hear when we go out there, and those are the concerns. And it's nice to hear seniors worried about climate change and talk about it from the perspective of future generations. You all got grandkids. Some of you got grandkids. I've got 4 grandkids, not quite to the great grandkid stage yet, but everybody worries about their kids' futures. And they're asking us to think about their kids' futures and frankly their own futures. The rapidly changing climate and erratic weather is already affecting people today. We're probably too far along to reverse it, but the goal is to kind of stop the bleeding and see if we can hold ourselves where we are as we slowly recover and bring ourselves back to a more sane place. But these things, the fact seniors share these goals is heartening. I share. It's nice to know that I'm not alone in thinking about this. And it's really, when we talk public policy, it's good to know the public policy makers are going to hear from seniors who aren't going to say, just, hey, this is all about me and I'm not worried. It's like, I'm worried about my kids and grandkids. And that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Now, you mentioned libraries, so I want to ask you a question about, how do older residents know what's available to them in the county in terms of just services and resources? Because there is a segment of the population that don't visit libraries. Perhaps they don't read the Beacon or they don't think to go to the county website. How else do older adults find out about the resources available? And also, how does that impact diverse communities?
That's a good and very complicated question. Um, we can put out public safety announcements. Doesn't mean people see them and hear them. We can put out text alerts. Doesn't mean you're looking at your phone for a text alert. I think text alerting skews slightly younger. And in terms of going to the county website, not everybody goes there. We look at the hits on the website, the visits on the website, and they would be indicative of not many people getting the message. So, we need to use our libraries where people do go in our senior centers as places we make sure we put out more public information and we do it front and center. We should work with the people who work in there to get them to do more frequent meetings with seniors, even in the course of a day. One of the things that I've thought about is I know people come in for programming and everything else, but there might be opportunities to take 5 minutes and let people know these are other places to get information. We did a lot of work during COVID, and we're still doing with our nonprofit partners. Many of those partners, particularly churches, have ties back into various senior communities across the wide range of ethnic groups in Montgomery County. We need to make sure that we're able to use those groups to bring messages back to the community. So we have all the ethnic groups in our community organization that we work with, and I don't think maybe we ask enough of people in terms of these organizations in terms of doing reach out for us. It wasn't normal. I think we kind of for years took them as, yeah, you're here, this is nice, and you'll talk to somebody. But I think we need to encourage people to be more deliberate. Can I get you flyers to bring to your church? Can I get you something? Do you uh, want us to do spots on our web pages that focus more on particular ethnic issues, or let people know, where they can go and get help in their language, with search services that are culturally competent. So, we're always trying to figure out how to do more and how to do better. I will never tell you that we figured this out. COVID showed us that, how much we didn't figure out, and our ability to pivot was a good thing. But the lesson out of that is you don't let go of it and stop doing it. Now you build on it. And so hopefully when not everything is a crisis, we can work with our partners to develop a more complete interactive role with them in the community. So a few things.
Well, yeah, well, we only have about 2 minutes left, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this question, especially since you mentioned that Montgomery County is proud to be in the family of the AARP age-friendly communities. Well, the COA, as you know, we will be hosting our October 2023 Summit on Aging. And I'm just interested in, how you will support that summit.
I'll be there to start with. So that, people have a chance to hear from me, but also talk to me. It's nice asking you to listen, but I ought to reciprocate by spending some time there where I'm doing some listening too. I can assure you that my staff will be there in numbers from all the appropriate departments, not just senior and aging staff, but we've got a new health director. I will expect the health presence there. I'm going to expect that there's a presence from recreation, libraries, all the things that you use and interface with so that you see them, that they hear from you, which again, I want to emphasize, it's important. It's as important to hear from you so people know what works and what the gaps are as it is from you to hear from us about what we're doing. Because we can tell you in that story, but if we don't get feedback, we can't make it a better story. So we want to make sure we have more two-way conversations with people that I think will help us figure out how we expand and what we do to make sure we take care of the senior population. So I look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully you all look forward to seeing and hearing from me. You guys do great work. I am fully cognizant of this. I remind people that, our agencies and nonprofit partners, all of them, they do things that government couldn't do by itself. We didn't have the volunteer networks that we have in this county, people wouldn't talk about this county being as great as it is. So it's good to get credit for all the great things people see happening, but I want to make sure everybody understands credit goes to a lot of people.
Well, we certainly want to thank you for all of your hard work. We're definitely fortunate in Montgomery County to have you as our leader, along with all the others that you mentioned, not specifically, but it takes a village. So we're appreciative of your entire administration team and all of the departments in our county that help our communities continue to thrive. Thanks again for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you more.
Absolutely. Well, that concludes our program for today. As you can see, the voices of those 50 plus matter every day and in every way. To learn more about services for seniors in Montgomery County, please visit the Montgomery County Seniors website by visiting montgomerycountymd.gov/senior or call the Senior Resource Line at 240-777-3000. And as always, thank you for watching 50 Plus in Montgomery County. Happy New Year.
Are you an age 50 plus job seeker looking for employment opportunities? JCA's senior employment programs can help. The Career Gateway is an intensive 5-day job search training program for the 50 plus professional job seeker. Class starts January 17th. Or join us Tuesday, January 10th at the free Montgomery County Virtual 50 Plus Employment Expo. All age 50 plus job seekers are welcome. Register today at accessjca.org.